Okay, this third video I'm going to talk about the 2014 political campaign. This is very important because this political campaign was when everything has happened. But I'm going to talk about 2012 when we had street protests in Brazil. And the first thing I need to talk about those protests is liberal think tanks. Liberal think tanks, yes. And maybe you watch something about Freedom House, Austrian School of Economics, and other think tanks that produce ideology that are simple to be understood. What I'm talking about is something like, okay, you have a 14-year-old son that strongly believes he knows everything about politics and economics, and strongly believes that the only thing that needs to happen for a country to be rich is become liberal. Yeah, it looks funny, but this is the way they took Brazil. The first step they had was to use liberal think tanks to get into the mind of Brazilian people, to start saying things like, oh, do you know why your country is not strong and powerful as the United States? It's because you don't have economical liberalism. Yeah, you need to stop protecting your frontiers. You need to go into liberalism if you want to get rich, because Brazil is adopting communism. And why? Brazil is adopting communism so the Lula government and Dilma government can stay forever. They buying votes using communism. What those people were attacking as communism were the redistribution of wealth that was adopted by the Workers' Party. This distribution of wealth was very important because Brazil was killing 300 kids per day in 2002 because those people didn't have anything to eat. So people were dying in Brazil for food. In 2014, we had the lowest level of unemployment in Brazil. But in 2002, we had an equilibrium into unemployment. We have a high level of unemployment, and we didn't have anything to take out that high level of unemployment. And into that situation, we had people starving, and we had 300 kids dying per day. So once Lula government started, he started fighting this problem, which was hungry, people starving. And he created many kinds of political, social benefits, like Bolsa Familia, something like a family benefit. This family benefit was in form of money. So the government was taking the money from the rich and was giving a bit of this money to the poor, so those poor could improve the economics of those areas. What happened was a kind of injection of money in the bottom. That injection of money in the bottom drove the economy. So we had, during those years, the GDP, Brazilian GDP was multiplied by 5. We had the lowest level of unemployment, as I said, in 2014, but we also had a decrease in the Gini coefficient, which means that we had the lowest level of inequality as well. So what I'm trying to say is very simple. From 2002 to 2014, we have improvement in all numbers of economics, in all indexes of economics. We have improvement in GDP, we have improvement in the level, of course, lowering the level of unemployment, and we have improvement lowering the level of inequality as well, and everything you can just check in World Bank is available until now, of course. But the point is, why those people strongly believed that Brazil was into a communism, so those people went to the streets to fight communism, to fight Workers' Party. And the response is because think tanks are there to produce think. They are think tanks because they are good on that. So they can convince people that people were living a kind of dream and we didn't have that level of growth, we didn't have a good life, we didn't have an improvement. Oh, how can you believe that people can believe in a think tank instead of believing on what they lived? It's difficult to believe that, but this is what happened in Brazil. People believed on think tanks like Austrian School of Economics and Freedom House, but they were not able to compare their lives in 2002 and 2012. So in 2012, people were drove into the streets to start protests on the streets. What happened was very simple to explain. The idea of those political protests was on that time to start driving down the Brazilian credibility around the world. Why? Because the system, I'm talking about the financial system, didn't want Brazil as a developing country anymore. They want Brazil as a colony. Yeah, they want Brazil as a very poor country just to deliver oil. So with people at the streets, with people doing protests, we had a lowering level of investments. So our industry started to have problem because just think about what is a political protest at the streets. It's not going to disturb the agriculture because the agriculture is inside the country. It's not on the big streets. It's not going to disturb oil extraction. It's in deep water. What is that going to disturb? Of course, that's going to disturb our industry. And this is what happened. Brazil started in 2012 a lowering level of credibility is the easiest way to say in English. The lowering level of credibility were on that time being processed, being developed to be used in 2014 political campaign, because in 2014 Aécio Neves, which was the guy fighting with Workers' Party, he was trying to use everything that he had created from 2012, all the chaos he had drove from 2012 to get the presidency of Brazil in 2014. But what happened was, even with all that fight against the government, the people in Brazil voted for the Workers' Party, and the Workers' Party won the election in 2014. But Aécio Neves and the PSDB, they had to pay the financial system. What? Brazilian oil. They had to find a way to get the oil and to deliver that oil to the financial system. So they needed to start developing a state coup. And this is what happened. In 2014, once Dilma was re-elected, Aécio Neves started fighting the government and creating a space, like an environment for an impeachment. What happened in Brazil was, from 2015, the second mandate of Dilma, everything in the politics was to drive the country to an impeachment. And that happened. Once the impeachment happened, Brazilian oil started to be sold. Brazilian companies started to be sold. Labor law was decreased. We had lowering level of I don't know how to say, but anyway, the workers' law was destroyed on that time. Anyway, I'm going to stop this video now, and I'm going to start on the next video. Sorry for my English, I'm trying to find the words because it's very easy in my language, but in English is a little bit difficult. But anyway, please subscribe to the channel and let's do it. Thank you.